So happy that we are all here. I don't know if you caught all of that. I was just saying hello multiple times over. We have a great crew with us today. I'm going to just have all of us go on to mute and camera off for 30 seconds so people can trickle in and the people joining us don't feel uncomfortable at just awkward silences. But get ready to party. This is going to be a good one. All right, people are still trickling in, but if you have hung out with me before, you know that things tend to run a little bit long, and especially when I'm joined by the incredible humans that we have here today. And so we are going to let people trickle in while we start our introduction. The good news is this is recorded, and so everyone will be getting a copy of this to catch up on our hopefully not too long-winded intros, but they're all going to be great, whether they are long or short-winded. Hello, everybody. I am Sarah Caminiti. I am the head of business transformation at Support Ninja. I'm also the host of the CX Roundtable and the career strategist and the leader of the CX Accelerator Experience Speakers cohort, which is my pride and joy. It is so good to see Support and CX leaders and anyone else that thought that this would be the best use of their 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, and it is. So pumped that you're all here live, and to folks that are going to be watching this, so happy that you registered so you can catch up on this in your busy days. So quick housekeeping, like I said, this is being recorded. We are going to send the recording to everyone who has registered. The cool thing about joining us here is you have a Q&A section on the sidebar of the webinar. Please use it. We want to know what you're thinking. We want to know if there's anything that we need to expand on, any questions, any things that you've experienced that you want to share and get our opinion on. That is the place for it. Don't be shy. What we will likely do is gather that all together in a fun little package, and we are going to save 8 minutes at the very end to do the answering to all of those. But if it is something that is relevant to the conversation in the moment, we will definitely make space for that as well, because you are all a part of this conversation that we're having, because we're so happy that we're here. You're all here. So let's get into what's going on. So there's a pattern that I and the folks on this panel, and I'm sure many of you, keep seeing with support in AI. Teams are getting stuck, not because the model can't do more, but because nobody's defined precisely enough of what it's allowed to do. There's still that gray area. So I think about a real AI deployment as 3 rules in order. We've got rule 1. What AI is trusted to resolve alone before a human ever opens the ticket? Rule 2, what happens at the edge when it hands a case to a person instead? And rule 3, how you actually prove any of that is working instead of just hoping that it is. And that rule 3 can be the most overwhelming rule of all. So today we're going to be walking through all 3 of these with 3 folks who've actually written and deployed these rules in production. So pumped with this crew. We're going to start with you, Nitesh, if you wouldn't mind doing a quick introduction so we can all get to know you.
Thanks, Sarah. Hello, everyone. I am CTO and co-founder of Hiver. Hiver is an AI-native customer support platform used by over 10,000 teams globally. In my role at Hiver, I drive product and technology at Hiver, and I work with customer support teams too in our company. We dog food our own product for obvious reasons, right? And we use our own product to run customer support, and this brings in a lot of learnings of deploying AI in real live production with actual customers and taking that to the product, to building and improving the product. So I'm hoping to share my experiences during this webinar today. Thank you.
Wonderful. So happy you're here, and thank you for hosting this for us. Without Hiver, we would not be here. So it's such a pleasure. And next down the line, I would love for you, Christian, to introduce yourself. Joining me again after our last Hiver party a few months
Dream
ago.
team.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, my name is Christian Sokolowski. I'm currently the VP of Customer Support at Rebuy Engine. It's a B2B SaaS e-com app for Shopify stores. I've been in the business B2B SaaS for about 15 years now. Currently leading the support engineering team as well as our AI strategy across the customer experience. Spent the past few years really diving into AI, so I'm really looking forward to talking through this today.
So happy that you're here. And then finally, last but not least, one of my favorite humans in the world, we got Mr. Nate Brown joining us from Nashville.
What's up, Sarah? Great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Love this topic. My name is Nate. I'm a student of this work and learning more and more every day. I did win a talent show by recreating the Lion King on roller skates. So my credibility naturally is very high in this space of automation. I had an opportunity to, in the early days, incorporate some self-service technology for a major gaming studio that had Batman-related IP, and we called it Alfred. And so I got to cut my teeth on doing some of those projects, and then ultimately got to help to incorporate this into a fascinating manufacturing environment and even a PRO, performing rights organization. So love seeing the impact that our elevated self-service technology can have. And this is going to be a fascinating conversation.
Yes, it is. And my gosh, what experts do we really have? Like, how lucky are we right now? This is pretty cool. So let's get this party really started with the questions. We're going to start with something concrete, not theoretical, because I think it's really important to talk about the reality of the situation, not just what our hopes and dreams are for what it's going to be like. So every single one of you here has pushed AI past the easy tier into something harder, like the multi-step resolution, the real-time coaching, the full coverage QA. Can you point to a specific moment that you realized the model was capable of more than you were actually willing to let it do? Like, was it a customer reaction, a number on a dashboard, or something that an agent said? And for this question, I would love to start with you, Nitesh, and for you to share with us your experience.
Yes. Like any other support team, we deployed AI to handle informational queries first, which were more grounded in factual data, document and website. And we kind of stalled there at some point. And we were trying to figure out how much more can AI take up beyond that. And to solve that, what we did, we took last 3 months of queries that we had in our support channel, and we analyzed and studied them, and we found that nearly 70 to 80% of the queries are reputational in nature. They might be multi-step queries. It might require the support rep to probably go through multiple steps, but these were the exact same steps for each of these categories that support reps have to go through, which requires some judgment sometimes. And this led to the revelation that, there is a lot of reputation happening, and it should be possible for AI to take more of that. And this forced us to think more, build more, and deploy more processes in our support funnel. And that has led us to move the needle even more, towards AI.
I love that. I love how you took this tool that you were building and you leveraged it for your team, for yourself, and you spent that time analyzing it to figure out what else can happen thoughtfully. And I think that that's such an important way for you to be approaching it, and for you to be leading those conversations, Nitesh, by building the ways to do it the right way, I think is really important for us in the CX community as well. So thank you very much for that. Christian, was there a moment that you really want to highlight? Was there a moment that it went the other way where you had to pull back the scope that you'd already granted?
Yeah, first off, I think the main thing to think about here is trust in AI gets earned quarter over quarter, not just right away. So it's going to be some trial and error. There's going to be some gaps for sure. We definitely had a couple events where our AI was leading people down the wrong path, or allowing, we found a gap with churn because of it. And that was one of the things that really stood out to us. And the fact that we didn't see that before is because our QA was just at sample. So actually having AI tell us what was happening, we were able to fill the gap and change things around. So it's really about looking at both CSAT resolution rates as one in a CX manner, rather than just deflection rates and resolution rates alone. So I think that's the big thing for me on this topic.
Yeah. I love that you acknowledged how important it is to have that space for failure, to like acknowledge that when you're deploying something like AI, cracks are really actually a good thing, because the cracks are telling you exactly what you need to do to make it stronger. It's not a reflection of something that you failed to do, because when you're in the thick of it, you're going to miss stuff. There's going to be things that aren't as obvious as needing to be highlighted or maintained along the way. And so giving yourself that space, having the opportunity to be like, okay, this is the reality of things. This is what we're seeing. How can we leverage this messiness to make things stronger and have it not feel like a reflection of us not doing a good job with the implementation? It actually is the result of us doing a good job, because we're iterating, we're building on this. And Nate, you have had the opportunity to interact with so many different companies and teams and how they are leveraging these things. So I'd love to know your take on this as well.
Yes, many failures, I mean learnings in that.
It's
So
the same thing.
exactly. There's a couple things that pop out of my mind. And I remember growing up teams of human support agents over these last decade and a half, and always telling them, I'd rather you be helpful than be right. Because I always had people that were like ultra process oriented, and like they didn't really care like how the customer thought and felt about the interaction. It was more about like, I'm going to slam dunk this into the bucket that I want to resolve it in. And I'm not going to say that to the AI agent though, because it has a tendency to definitely be helpful and to take significant creative liberty. And I'd rather it be perfect, because the liability is very real there, especially in some of these highly regulated and sensitive environments. So it's just a different mentality. And I guess like the moment of truth for me was going from conversational AI to where it's parroting things from a knowledge base to agentic, where it's generating its own recommendations and actually taking action on behalf of the client, based on all the systems and capabilities that it had access to. And as we're seeing these things learn and then making mistakes, it's like, where are you getting that information? Why did you do it that way? And usually the answer to the question is, it saw one of our human agents do it that way. And it's learning from the people. And then I'm realizing, holy cow, this is my error. I've allowed the team to have disparate ways of resolving these issues for so long, and to be taking their own creative liberties and all these things. It's now confusing the ability for our digital agents to learn and grow in a correct, consistent manner. So there's a lot of kind of going back to the drawing board and making sure that there's accuracy, there's consistency, both in the knowledge base and the way that the people are fulfilling these tasks, so that the digital agents can learn properly.
Wow, yeah, that is such an interesting thing to have noticed, because you want the agents to be able to go about resolving these queries or these tickets in the way that makes sense. And if the outcome is the same regardless, then you don't want to squash that. But at the same time, if you are allowing an AI tool to absorb all of those interactions, if the agent is not documenting their process anywhere, then you're just getting little fragments of the journey. You're not getting any of that backstory. So while the result, that process, that flow could be correct, there's nothing wrong with the way that they did it, the AI tool is only seeing what they're saying to the customer. They're not seeing all the work that goes on the back end. And so that inconsistency is going to create a lot of gaps as well. And I think that pairs really nicely with some of the data that Support Ninja was able to grab hold of for our 2026 CX outsourcing report, because it said that 84% of leaders are saying that their AI initiatives are meeting or exceeding expectations, yet only 23% have fully operationalized AI across their core CX workflows. That's a 60% gap between it's working and it's actually running the operation. And Nate, I think that is a big key point there in that 60-point gap, like, because there's all of these gaps in how things are running and the permissions that you're likely allowing for the AI that you may not even realize that you're doing so. And because of the 60-point gap, I started really thinking about the different stages and the different things that need to be thought of during this process. And so I figured there's probably like 4 stages in order to explain that gap. You got that foundational readiness, you've got the pilot experimentation, you've got the integration, and then you've got that operational optimization. And almost everyone plateaus at stage that period between stage 2 and stage 3. And then they stop expanding, and you get a lot of different things that pop up between this pilot period and the integration. So we'll start back with you, Nate. There, what do you think is really going on that's causing that struggle between the pilot and the integration?
Struggle is real. And I'm amazed by that stat, Sarah, that so many people are now having success with AI implementations, because it was what, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that famous statistic around 95% of AI implementations are failing to make a meaningful difference. And now look where we are. Like it would appear that the vast majority of people that stuck with it are seeing success in terms of their AI implementation. So I feel like that's worth calling out, like how much that has changed over this past year and a half. But yeah, the gap between seeing initial success and customers reporting that they are at least satisfied with resolutions that are happening over elevated self-service channels versus your depiction, Sarah, of truly operationalized AI across the department, across the customer service department. I think a big part of that, I mean, we don't set ourselves up for success. We don't think big enough at the beginning, and we try to have the tools replicate our legacy mindset of what customer service is meant to do. We're not ticket takers anymore, folks. Like that's gone. Like it's not just about resolving a problem. Like we have the opportunity to do so much more in terms of proactively guiding the customers to success and to being that proactive and capable guide for them. If all we think about is resolution, then we're going to get stuck in that stage 1. We're going to get really good at slam dunking and deflecting tickets. We're not going to get really good at proactively understanding the customer's journey, bringing these data points together and being able to predict and say, wow, this is what you're going to experience next. Here's what we need to do now. Here's what you could do. Let's talk about this. Let's co-create around this concept. That the conversation is and should be so much bigger than what it's been.
Yes. Oh, yes. And I think that's it right there, because what we have noticed, what we've probably always known, but it's been a little bit harder to articulate it and find the right kind of data around it, is that CX needs to be at the center of every single business decision. And it has to be at the core of every single piece of the puzzle. And the only way you can do that is by having a structure within your CX organization that is capable of analyzing what's going on, taking all this data and leveraging it in a way that makes sense for your organization to tell the story effectively, to think about your metrics. Do they actually align with what's going on? Are these the right things to pay attention to? All of that exists within the data that you can extract from all of these different tools. Nitesh, what have you noticed over with Hiver, with these 4 different pillars and where people are struggling?
Yeah. So when teams deploy AI and they go through successive iterations, they see improvements and how much AI can take up. But as a supervisor who is running customer support, it is important that we are not fixed on just how much is AI able to take up. It is important to control, has the overall experience deteriorated, improved compared to the previous benchmarks? And this is why it is very important to have a very tight control on the quality of the conversations that your AI is doing, the drop-offs or handoffs the AI is doing. Your customer does not want to start talking to AI every time and eventually be redirected to a support rep. That is a bad experience for the customer, right? We want to see, are there specific categories of support tickets where AI is doing better versus the other categories where AI is not doing better, and you might want to plug those categories or maybe move those categories off AI entirely, which are not doing it. So there is a lot of work that needs to happen under the hood from a supervisor lens to continue monitoring, analyzing, and doing that in a very old-fashioned way of pulling this into a spreadsheet it's not scalable. So there are dedicated tooling in the market today. Even Hiver provides that tooling, which helps you to understand what is happening across your entire customer base, which is interacting with an AI, and then try to incrementally roll out or pull back AI in areas where AI is not doing great. And this is a journey that we went through, right? We cherry picked, we looked at the problems very minutely, and tweaked AI to continue improving in certain pockets, while we did not deploy AI in certain pockets. And these pockets can vary. It can be you do not want AI to answer certain type of queries. Other thing can be maybe you do not want AI to talk to your high value customers or high ticket size customers, or you do not want AI to talk to a customer where the account health is not great, or maybe the customer sentiment has dropped. So you need a more granular control on our AI, and then you incrementally keep working on that, improving on that to expand the overall landscape where AI is operating on.
I love that. Christian, what do you have in your experience for these different moments of opportunity and change and growth?
I'd have to agree with both Nate and Nitesh on this. Nitesh hit it on the head. It's all about the mundane tasks that you put into it that actually makes it relevant and useful. So reading the information that your AI is putting out, actually going in and tweaking things, it's not fun. It's like it's really not. Sometimes building the new stuff is, but having to go and tweak it truly isn't. And that's why I think people get to the pilot stage and never pass that, because pilots are built on repeatable, easy questions to get you those resolution rates, and not the real world edge cases that you're going to run into. And those are the ones that are difficult, that you really got to put your head down and figure out what you're doing. So I think that comes into building new roles in the company, building AI roles for people to specifically head those things up. If you do that, that's how we've gotten so far, because we have that role now, and they're able to help me with all of the things that you're trying to do at once. So I think I tend to agree with both of them on that.
That's cool, Christian. I like that a lot. And I feel like, some of the conversations I was having at CCW, the ones that were experiencing the most success were the ones where their experience design vision was still ahead of the capabilities of the tools.
Absolutely.
Whereas so many of them, I mean, they fell behind last year in terms of what the tool can do versus their vision for what they wanted the experience to be. You're still in control, Christian, and you're developing a larger strategic experience with the tools enhancing that, but your vision is still bigger. And I think that's important.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's the human in the loop bit of all of this is one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle that I love seeing it getting much more airtime lately. And I hope that just continues to evolve, because the reality is we've been doing this now for a handful of years. There are very skilled human beings that should be in charge of monitoring, should be in charge of optimizing the automations, the QAing, all of that. This is not something that you can just add to a frontline employee's scope of work and say, figure it out, because that's not fair to them. That's not what they were hired to do. That's not what they're being paid to do. And so if you're not thinking about the evolution of these roles and the ways that you can leverage folks effectively as you continue to implement AI, then you're really not setting yourself up for success, because you're kind of missing the point. You got to have people that are good at what they do, doing the things that matter to move the needle forward, and you have to be forward thinking when you do that. And before we get to the next bit here, I want to make sure that Christian, someone in the crowd here, Van, asked a great question of how do you prepare internal business partners for the iterative process of building an effective AI program?
That's a good question. I think the main thing is be the champion for it and be open about what the experience is going to be from the C-suite all the way down to the support frontline. Everyone's going to have a different experience as you're building these things out. You got to tell people you're going to stumble, just be honest about it. Have your metrics to look at and improve, own up to what's not there and what's breaking. Again, we had a churn issue because of it. So I think that's the big thing, as well as teaching and doing it yourself as well to show that, hey, it's worth it. I think that's the biggest piece, is be the champion for it.
Yeah. I definitely can see how that piece of the puzzle is one it's really easy to kind of talk yourself out of doing, because it feels risky to acknowledge out loud that you're going to have bumps. This is not going to be smooth, but it's not supposed to be smooth. Like, you don't want it to be smooth. We're going into something new and different. And one of the things that folks come to me and ask questions about quite often is like, what the heck are we supposed to do? We've been told to implement AI, but we're not ready. Our foundation is not ready. And it's important to first remember that things can move slowly. You can start to build that momentum. You can start to just make small changes. And over time, you will be so surprised at what you've been able to accomplish together to get you there. But also, you can only prepare for what you know to prepare for. And AI is one of those things that you do not know what to prepare for all the time. And you have to lean in on that and celebrate it. And Christian, I love what you were saying there about, kind of setting that expectation from the C-suite down, because that involves not making assumptions. And that involves going to them and saying, hey, this is what I think this means. This is what I think success looks like. This is why I think this is important. Does that align with what you are taking away from this, what you think success looks like? Because how often do we all enter into these conversations where one word, like, I think about the word transformation a lot, because that's a really easy one to have different opinions of what it means. So we can all four of us can be talking about transformation, and everybody's interpretation of that is totally different. And so then we're all going in all these different directions, and then we come together and we're, what the heck? Like, we said we're doing this. We're
all using
doing?
AI. Check the box.
Yeah. I mean, we're transforming nonstop. Like, do you see the house that I built? Do you see the transformation of this entire home? It's like, we work in CX. Why are you building a house? This makes absolutely no sense. And it's because you didn't stop and define what the heck you mean by what you say. And so then to make sure to, like, phase one needs to be, hey, are we all speaking the same language? Have we defined what the heck we're talking about here? And then you can kind of start to build your foundation off of that. I want to move next to our next question here. This is for Nitesh, and this really does align beautifully with what we've just been talking about here. Agentic AI, resolving a ticket end to end, like pulling the account data, applying a policy, issuing a refund without any human involved. It sounds like it could be the finish line. That's the part that, gets all of the LinkedIn posts and conference keynotes and everything like that. But you've said it publicly. That's not actually the hard part of building this. The hard part is something earlier, something a lot less glamorous. And you have touched on this already, but I just want to kind of pause, because I think it is such an important piece in doing this well and effectively. If you're taking pre-ticket tagging as an example, it's flagging intent, the sentiment, and order ID before anybody even opens the ticket. What's the boring, unglamorous work that has to be right there, that has to be correct right there when this thing starts to get started, before any of the exciting, flashy stuff can be trusted? Like, how do people go about building that foundation?
Sure. Human judgment is going to be the most scarce resource in future, right? and you want your support reps to spend more time understanding customer problems, responding empathetically, which potentially AI might not be able to do a great job. But if you look at how a support rep works today, they spend a lot of time doing stuff, doing items which might not require a lot of human judgment. That can be automated. And this is where AI can empower the support teams to offload a lot of grunt work, which AI can definitely do. So there are broadly two buckets here. The first part is triaging, and triaging is when a ticket comes in, it needs to be classified, it needs to be tagged, it needs to be routed to the right team. AI can take nearly a good part of that by automating, so that your support reps don't have to do that. And the second part of the bucket is ticket preparation. So when a ticket comes in, the agents might need to pull in some information. It can be maybe they are asking about an invoice, so pulling up the exact invoice ID from the system of record, or maybe understanding what are the previous issues from this customer, what are the other open tickets from the same customer. Customer information is also important for the human agents to be able to respond and act on the ticket in an empathetic way. So all this pre-preparation can be done and offloaded to the AI, so that when support rep looks at the ticket, they spend time doing what they are best at, to understanding the customer, using their judgment, and then tackling the issues as they.
Yeah. I love that you shared that. Thank you so much, Nitesh. I think that is such valuable information. For the sake of time, I'm going to move on to the next couple of ones. We're talkers. We really should have had this be 3 hours. But Christian, I want to make sure that we can celebrate what you were able to accomplish over at Rebuy, from taking your resolution rate with AI from 14% up to 70 to 75%, saving over 40,000 hours, while pushing the CSAT to 95% for both human and AI. Yeah. So most people would assume that automating that much of your volume will cost you quality, but you saw it the opposite. So can you kind of give us a quick walkthrough of what you were learning from that?
Yeah, it was definitely a long road initially. I mean, the models were new when we first launched it, but it wasn't just about that. It was pretty evident when that happened that there was cracks that we hadn't filled. Our knowledge base was way out of date. We didn't have it formatted in a way that AI could understand it, which was brand new to us. No one knew how we were supposed to write for it. So going in and actually revamping all of that, as well as building guidance, not just having it read this, but telling it to ask clarifying questions for specific use cases, when to escalate, when to notify us if someone uses a certain tone or language or a certain phrase, so we know and can jump in. And giving it all of that has eventually gotten us to the point of where it can pull in the information, like Nitesh said, getting that information up front so our human agents can actually talk to them and know what's going on immediately, rather than asking the same questions over and over again. So that alone, being able to handle all of those questions, resolve 70 to 75%, as well as gather the information for the ones that we don't want it to use or actually try and answer, or the ones that we actually need to because it's so technical, that gives the human agents more time to spend with the customer, therefore giving that human touch where those people probably just want it. They don't want to talk to AI, which is fine. That's fine. So doing that allows it, to have both sides getting the time that they need with the right person.
Yep, that's it. I mean, that's really it. The last question before we move over to Q&A is for you, Nate. Across the CX Accelerator community, you get to see what a lot of these different teams are doing with co-pilots or agent assists, especially. And does this actually hold the line at assist, don't decide, or does it quietly blur with agents rubber stamping a suggestion instead of thinking it through?
It's absolutely blurring. Of course, it's going to blur. As these tools become more and more capable, and as the line gets very blurry in terms of what should be handled by what, that guidance that Christian is talking about, we've got to be very good at setting up the right guide rails. I think the iconic wisdom from the effortless experience, which, can you believe it, Sarah, came out in 2011. It feels a bit prophetic at this point, but it talks about guiding customers to the best resolution path.
Yep.
And it gave a lot of wisdom in terms of how and when to do that. But at the crux of it, you're putting yourself in the customer's shoes and you're understanding that decision point in terms of what is the customer trying to accomplish, what really matters right here, and how can we best bring them to that next step of success in a way that they're going to feel very equipped, very loved, and very guided by us as the brand that they trusted to get them there. So I like to say, let's make the quick parts quick and the slow parts meaningful. It's exactly what Natesha's saying there in terms of let's automate all the right things and make it really fast for people to accelerate on their path towards meaningful resolution. And what do we earn in doing that? We earn let's slow down. Let's ask the right questions. Let's really understand the thoughts and feelings that this customer is having right here. Are they even pursuing the right resolution?
Right.
Are they on the right pathway to where they want to ultimately end up? How can we intervene in such a way that's going to be very helpful, transcend that idea of issue resolution? That's what our people get to do. So yeah, I mean, they should absolutely be assisted in terms of quickly fulfilling the resolution. Quick parts quick. And then ultimately, what do they get to do? Let's slow down and let's equip this customer in a way that only we can.
Yes. Well, I mean, when you think about someone's asking for help, someone's reaching out to support, they have hit a moment where they can no longer be successful independently. They may not know how to articulate that well. They
Bingo.
are probably frustrated. They are trying to go about their day. Nobody wants, as lovely as we all are, folks, nobody wants to be reaching out to support and be at the mercy of a stranger to help them accomplish what they need to accomplish. And so if we're not thinking about that piece of it, like someone's headspace when they're coming to you to ask this question, and how can you meet them where they are in a way that makes them feel empowered to do what it is that they're looking to do, but also safe enough to come back and ask questions, whether it's about the same thing or it's about something else entirely. That is when you know that you're doing it well. And right now, that is the differentiator between companies that are likely doing the same thing, but they're going about it in very different ways. So I see a question here for you, Nate, to just kind of expand on what you were just saying there. Across all the teams that you talk to, what's one practice you keep seeing that you now recommend to everybody, regardless of their size of the industry?
Yeah, and it goes back to one thing that Christian was just saying, and Nitesh, in terms of setting this foundation. I've kind of created my own mini knowledge-centered service methodology. And I like to call it creating knowledge curators. And it's where the human talent of the team are enabling and making the digital agents more intelligent. And I like to say, let's get smarter with every customer interaction together. And so it's them taking an area where they get to become a subject matter expert, and they get to have significant pride in that. They get to dig deep in that. They get to understand the customer in a very unique way in this area. They are then responsible for educating their peers on that, for acting as like an escalation point for those type of issues, and helping to make the digital agents better on those things as well. So suddenly these support agents are now these knowledge curators. And what I like to do after they've been doing that on a particular area of knowledge for a quarter or a half of a year, flip it. Sarah, you're now responsible for this part of the knowledge curation process, and you get to become an SME on that part. That's how you make your people so smart, so capable, so curious, so proud of what they're getting to do, and they're working together really effectively with the digital agents.
Yep, I love that. And something that I did once on my team was I created a maintenance calendar. So it was all of the different topics, like starting with like your tagging taxonomy. And so everything was kind of bundled into there. And then every month would be a specific topic. And you would dive into the knowledge base and you would make sure that everything was up to date. But during that month, you were so immersed in it that you were spotting trends in the ticket. You were figuring out better ways to go about things. You were highlighting stuff. And then when you moved on to the next month, when you switched gears and started thinking about other things, you were taking that knowledge with you, and you're able to connect dots in ways that you probably wouldn't have otherwise. And so having subject matter experts, giving people the opportunity to be immersed in something hyper specific, unlocks so much because they're not flooded with all of these different things and being pulled into different spaces. Like when you get into a flow space in the queue, you're going from one thing to the next. Once you hit send, that thing is gone. It's out of your brain and it's making space for the next one. And so if you're making it a point to say, I want you to think about this specifically, we're going to route tickets to you that are about this so you can start to notice, is the knowledge base even working effectively for this? Just only enhances everything, and it allows people to think about their career. It allows them to think about the customer in ways they weren't able to before. And so I think that that's a great point. And I want to make sure that we get this question from the crowd here. Isn't it complex to implement and optimize at the same time? It will be hard to understand what's working. I think that is such an awesome question, and it's an important one to highlight. Because it's something that everybody is kind of thinking in the back of their head, but they're too nervous to say out loud. And so I'm super glad that we're able to touch base on that. And Christian, I think that with your approach to iteration, I think that you would probably be a great person to kind of pause with on this question and put you on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. It is a very complex thing to do, to implement and optimize at the same time, but take it in small increments, right? You're not going to be able to solve it all at once. Come up with a roadmap of what you think is the right thing to do next. Let it run. It's not going to happen overnight. You know, you're going to have to watch the metrics, see what happens. You'll have a good week, you'll have a bad week, but looking at it month over month, quarter over quarter, you can see the gaps where you need to go. So small steps to get you to the big picture is the end.
Yes, I love that. Love that. And then for our last question, before we start to close things out here and plan for our next round together, because there's way more to talk about. Nitesh, what is an example of a task Hiver's AI handles today that you personally didn't expect it to be ready for a year ago?
Yeah, so this is a kind of a diagnostic query. So quite frequently, our customers would come to our support and say this XYZ feature is not working. And unfortunately, there is no straightforward answer to it. The support reps would have to go to a log, application log, look at the logs, what has happened, correlate this with their feature usage data, right, and come back with the answer. But the answers were pretty standard. There were either 3 or 4 paths where the answer could fall into. And when we leveraged AI here, we saw that AI can very precisely come up by analyzing the logs and slot the resolution in either of these 4 paths. So what we did, we built a workflow around that. Right, that whenever such a query comes in, let AI go and look at the logs itself and decide which resolution path should it choose. And to our surprise, it was able to do a great job for 80 to 90% of the queries for that category of queries. So this was a revelation, and this has helped us to automate similar other workflows.
What a great way to end this conversation here. We had so many fun lightning rounds that we were going to end with, and I don't think there's enough lightning to round for these next couple of minutes without us going over. So let me just high level takeaways from what I learned from all of these very skilled souls. And if there's anything that I missed, you guys feel free to pull out your maraca or whatever instrument you have next to you and throw it into the mix. But I think that one of the best things that we covered here is how important it is to really be methodical and think about what kind of cracks are being exposed and how you are going to dig into those to optimize, how to keep your eye on the prize of who is this customer and why are we trying to make things easier for them? What kind of data can we extract? And I think one of the biggest ones here is you are supposed to fail. You are supposed to struggle in the beginning. That transition between pilot to implementation is hard because you're not running on your basic forgot password questions anymore. You are running on people, real people with heightened emotions, with different ways of explaining things, with different paths to get to the right thing. They could start with one question and they could be 25 questions deep with you. And that is just the reality of the beast, because that's just what happens in support. You go on a journey every single time you open up a ticket and you don't know what's going to happen. And so when you are implementing AI, make space for that, have conversations with senior leaders and say, hey, this is a good thing. This is going to make us stronger. This is going to make us more unified. Excuse me. I'm gonna get for having Diet Coke while I'm talking to you folks. But like this is part of it. This is a big piece of the puzzle, and I hope that everyone here's takeaway from that is to give yourself permission to be explicit about this when you're talking to the folks that you're going to need buy-in from in order to implement this effectively. But for you three fine gentlemen, is there anything else that you want to add before we say our farewells?
I'll echo Natish's comment when we were doing our dry run before this. Let CX be that North Star. Don't get caught up in a sea of sameness here. Keep very distinctive elements in your experience design as you bring on these elevated self-service capabilities. It's wonderful what we can automate and the efficiency that we can bring, but do not lose sight of the fact that we get to make people's lives better and easier as part of this process and elevate experiences in ways that was never possible before. So keep dreaming, stay excited, get your team excited. They are not victims of this. This is a new era of the customer experience economy that we get to celebrate and make sure your team feels that.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
One question that we were discussing earlier was around agent assistant copilot, and I want to just share one experience before we drop off. AI cannot be a replacement for your support reps' core fundamental skill. They have to be good at what they do, right? And this is where it is important that when assist or an agent is trying to support your rep in a suggested answer or a reply, it is important as a support team to continue monitoring that. Because it most likely will not come up with the right answer in the first cut, and you will have to go through iterations. And it is important that you keep working on that, improving on that. And if your support rep is banking on that answer in the first iteration, most likely you will end up with an experience which is not top notch. And this is where you have to be very careful.
Yep. Yep. So true. Well, thank you all so much. I feel just so lucky to get to hang out with you, and thank you for all the thoughtful questions that have come in. Please, please, please find us on LinkedIn or join CX Accelerator to continue the conversation. We are always happy to continue to chat about this. This was just kind of the start, plants a seed for a conversation like this, and we would love to help you as you navigate this in any way that we can. But I am Sarah Caminiti. I am just feeling really lucky right now. And thank you to Nate and to Nitesh and to Christian for sharing your wisdom, and to all that joined. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.